Welcome back. This is the final webinar, 10 in total. It's a lot, eh? Quite detailed area.
Still probably a few to do on classification.
So it's on this final webinar, we will cover the Finnish conduct and some special event management items that we need to keep in mind. So for the finish line, medical services, recovery, it's exactly the same layout, the same setup as we have for the full body athletes. One thing that is different from the full body athletes is the space that we need at the post-finish area, considering that we have the raised wheelchair and they want bigger space for them to be able to move on. The personal handlers should be at the post-finish area waiting for the athletes with a daily chair in order to support them. So we need to have a clear pathway for the personal handlers to move forward from the transition zone to the finish area. The finish definition for all the athletes except the hand cyclists, we have the torso rule as in the full body athletes. Regarding the hand cycle, Eric, what do we apply in this case?
So for the finish line, the main provision around the finish for the PTH athletes is that apart from the exact timing positioning, in the case of a video review, you have to refer to the center of the axis of the front wheel to determine the final placings. It's not the front of the wheel, not the furthest edge that first crosses the vertical plane of the finish. It's the center of the axis. So in case of a video review, that's what you need to consider.
So there is a video. There is actually a photo which explains exactly what we mean.
Yeah.
So this is what Eric just mentioned. It's the center of the front wheel, which counts for us as definition. One area which again we have to be quite detailed is how we hold the finish line tape for the winners. We have to consider first of all the needs of the raised wheelchair, the athletes racing with the raised wheelchair, and the athletes that they have a leg amputation, which they should never step on this finish tape. So Eric, what should be the best position of holding this finish tape?
So in the case of the ambulant athletes, obviously, it's not so different than the able bodies. We just need to make sure, like if it's a prosthetic user, not to be afraid to go slightly higher, just to make sure that we avoid any kind of potential tripping with their artificial legs, crutches, etc. So again, standard belly to middle chest height. If you want to go a little bit higher, you can do so. Normally, athletes will grab it if they have enough time to do so, so it should not be an issue. In the case of the athletes on the racing wheelchair, what you need to make sure that does not happen is that the finish tape is in no way trampled over by the front wheel of the racing wheelchair. The athlete has to have the ability to bring it onto his chest. If it goes slightly up higher and it's to the neck, they will be able to lower themselves, but make sure it doesn't. It should go higher than lower in all cases.
An area which is quite important to focus is the timing services around the paratriathlon events. So first of all, we have to consider the start, the first start system as we explained in the first webinars, and be sure to split the athletes accordingly on the HC category and the VI category. We have to provide two timing chip to all the athletes. The hand cycle athletes should have one timing chip on the hand cycle one on the raised wheelchair. The rest should keep the timing chip on them. If they have one leg, this should always be on one leg, and the other timing chip needs to be on the prosthesis. And there are specific regulations that are provided to technical delegates on how we should manage this area. Manual backup is important, especially on the swim exit. So we need to be in position to support the organizing committee of keeping manual backup for these athletes. The results, they should be created and submitted to the race referee for approval according to the sport class and the gender. and needs to be they need to follow the format that we have inside the competition rules. The B1 athletes in the final time, there should be the addition of all the 5 splits that we have: swim, T1, bike, T2, run. For the B2, B3 men, we should add on the 5th slip the 3:18 time that we have on the compensation time. And for the B2, B3 women, the 3:48. Similar approach we have for the PT-HC. So for the H2 men women, we have to add the equal values that we have determined inside the competition rules. For the medal ceremonies, Eric, anything specific to remember?
So we also normally determine the order depending on how the waves have finished in the race, the soonest availability of athletes that may have finished at an earlier stage. You do have to unite them in the area where ceremonies will take place. So it is important to make sure that you have all of them present before you start proceeding with the actual ceremonies. And obviously, you need to have a waiting area and an accessible area for the daily wheelchair athletes, the PTH category, because they need to be able to access the podium areas without any kind of constraint.
The guides, do they take a medal?
Guides absolutely do take a medal. It's in our competition rules, and you have to make sure that the preparations do include the guides. We are even including sometimes now the guides' names in the results, so you can work with sports presentation to ensure that they are also named and called when the awards are taking place. And as we can see there on the slide, one of the other things that we mentioned was the ramps. Again, as I said, totally accessible area for PTHC class.
Moving on doping control, again, we have now doping control testing in the ITU events. The area that we will have the doping control needs to be wheelchair accessible area in case that a wheelchair athlete has been selected. At this point, there is no testing on guides or handlers, but this will change in the future. And who is going to be selected and from which category, this is something that the technical delegate and our doping control department is managing this. Again, working really close with the doping control agency is critical in order to make sure that they have access to the athletes immediately after the finish and for them to be able to perform the duties according to the procedures that they have been determined by the doping control authorities.
Venue accessibility, we won't get into too much detail. All the specifications are clearly outlined in the EOM. Again, mainly, as we said, accessible areas, elevators, if you have different levels with steps, different the surfaces, ramps, etc. Anything that allows for a clear maneuverability of the athletes, the width of the doors for accessing are things to obviously keep into consideration. Again, gradient of the ramps if required. You can all these features you can clearly look at them in the EOM to understand if it's possible to execute awards and ceremonies in the best way.
Hygiene, it's something that we have to be quite careful. First of all, in the athletes area, we have to provide wheelchair accessible toilets besides the normal toilets that we have. And we need to have special boxes where the athletes can deposit the urine devices that they have. So images like what you see there should not be shown in our events. But again, this is shown because we haven't provided the proper facilities or the proper deposit areas for the athletes to deposit these urine devices. So just concluding, we have one additional case study. This is linked with the classification. So what do we see here, Eric?
Yeah, it's actually one of the competition rules that has been revised in order to not allow situations like what you see in this picture, which is that an athlete with who's not missing a limb, in this case the left lower leg, is also using a running blade attached to this this prosthetic, but that is not replacing a missing limb. So like the prosthetic with the blade on the right would be acceptable, but not the one on the left leg. So this athlete would not be allowed to compete with this piece of equipment under the new rule.
Obviously, if there are classifiers on site, this is something that will be pointed by the classifiers, and the race referee has to take action. If not, the race referee needs to act accordingly and not allow the athletes with this equipment to compete. So this is the conclusion of the recorded webinars that we have prepared for the paratriathlon rules, specific for the technical officials officiating in these events. In the folder with these 10 webinars, you will find a number of videos that we are asking you to review as well. These are different case studies from a number of events. We will give you a visual on what we should do or we should not do. We hope that you found them interesting, and feel free to contact either myself or Eric for any question that you have around the rules. Our contact details is on the ITU website under the contact section. So we will be more than happy to clarify any question that you may have. Eric?
Yeah, thank you everyone for attending these webinars, and as Thanos mentioned, we remain at your disposal and availability for anything you may need. Thank you.
And at the same time, it's any recommendations that you have of making these webinars better, please feel free to communicate this to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.